Alright, so today we are going to be working on flying and I guess mounted speeds. So let me just give you an example of what we're going to be doing. Alright, so if I press play and select our player, you can see that we've added a new state, mounted state, and a couple variables here for the speeds. So what I can do, is I can show you that this is our regular speed. Then if I change to mounted, all of a sudden we start moving faster. So this is just us adding our mounted speed bonus. Then if I change to mounted flying, I can run off this ledge and immediately begin flying. All the controls work just like swimming. I can land, continue running around. Beyond that, I can also jump and start flying. And then I can go from flying to swimming and swimming to flying. And then also if I go sideways outside here, flying. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Be sure to stay tuned to the end if you want to see a lengthy description of what I'm going to be doing next, because this is technically the last video in this series, even though I am going to be continuing the World of Warcraft videos. Anyways, so let's just jump right in. Alright, so let's start by coming into our scene, and let's just grab this wall over here. I'm going to focus on it, and I'm going to open Pro Builder. I'm just going to take this wall down by 1 meter. This just is going to give us a nice little ledge to drop off of so that we can properly test flying. From there, let's start making some changes in our player controller. So I don't need to look at jumping anymore, so I'm going to remove that. I'm also going to hide all of the variables that I don't need to see in swimming. So for instance, these ones, these public floats, so hide in inspector, and then I'll just copy that and hide this one as well. Okay, so next I'm going to come down to the bottom where we have our move state. I'm going to add a new state and we're going to call it flying. Then I'm going to add a new public enum. We're going to call this one mounted state. And this is just going to help us determine when we're mounted and when we're unmounted. And I'm going to add unmounted, mounted, and mounted flying here. Then we're just going to add a new case here. I'm just going to copy all this. I'm going to remove the method and change swimming to flying. Next, I'm going to create a new category. This one's going to be like right underneath grounded, probably. Mounted. And I'm just going to create a new public mounted state. Let's call this one mounted state. And we're going to set this equal to mounted state unmounted. Alright, so next we have to talk a little bit about movement bonuses in World of Warcraft. The way they work is the first time you get a mount, you'll have a 60% riding speed bonus, which is 60% of your movement speed added on top of your movement speed. So it's 160%. So we have to be conscious of this when we're setting up our different movement bonuses. So public float, we'll call this one mounted speed, and we'll set it equal to 1.6f. So when we multiply our move speed by 1.6f, it's going to be 100% plus 60% of that. And then we're also going to add flying speed, and we're going to set that one equal to 2.5f because the flying speed bonus is 150%. Of course, those change. So for instance, when you get your epic mount, it's 100% bonus, which is 200%. And I think max flying is 310%, which is technically 410% movement bonus. All right, so inside of locomotion, I'm going to come to the top of locomotion where I have running and walking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to if run, and right after current speed times equals run speed, I'm going to add if mounted state is not equal to mounted state dot unmounted. Then I want current speed to be times equal mounted speed. So what this is going to do is it's just going to multiply our move speed when we're mounted. Let's have a look at what that looks like. I'm just going to select our player, and I'm just going to switch mounted state to mounted. And you should see that we're moving quite fast. If I switch that to unmounted, we're moving at the regular speed. So from there you can see what that kind of looks like, the mounted speed. Let's continue. I'm going to create a new method because we are basically trying to get flying working. We already know how to move around. We need to be in the air, basically. So let's start by creating our method. So we'll go void flying. And just so that I'm making sure that we're on top of ourselves, I'm going to put the flying method inside of the move state flying. All right, so and just at the start of this, we can jump into flying and we can fall into flying. Now, if we're falling into flying, it's not a huge issue because we're basically just going to land on the ground and our gravity is going to be reset to 0. But if we're jumping, when we land on the ground, our gravity won't be reset to 0. So we need to make sure we're setting it to 0 right away. So if jumping, then we need to set our velocity y equal to 0, and we need to set jumping equal to false. All right, so from here, I want to grab a couple things from our swimming method. So I'm going to grab this entire thing here, and I'm going to drop it right underneath here. We don't need to make any changes to this. Just be aware that this is us rotating and that kind of thing. Also, I want to take everything that's inside jumping. So I'm just going to grab all of this. I'm going to ignore the bottom thing. So just from here to about here. It's us limiting the water surface, and technically flying doesn't really have that. We'll probably just set up a collider when you get too high in the sky. And that collider will basically make you take a certain amount of damage or something like that. Okay, so now that we have this, what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to change this to if controller dot is grounded. And we're going to need to set the move state directly to locomotion. And then the other thing is this here. So when we did our swimming, this was how I limited the speed vertically. But the issue is, if let me just show you actually what the issue is. So we're moving pretty slow for some reason. Oh yes, because I still need to multiply the speed. If I'm hitting spacebar and forward at the same time, we're actually moving at an angle faster than before. And that's because what we need to be doing here is we actually need to be normalizing velocity. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go velocity is equal to velocity dot normalized. And since this is the exact same thing in swimming, I'm just going to come up and change that. So this is right here where it says mathf.clamp. It's just going to be velocity equals velocity dot normalized. All right, and then after that, what we need to do is we need to change swim speed to run speed times flying speed, because this is, you know, on top of our movement speed while we're on the ground. So when we fly, what it should look like is this. So let's just jump, flying. And now we're moving super fast. And when we move at an angle, we're not moving any faster than we were previously. We're just flying around. All right, so now let's set up a situation where we can essentially walk off a ledge and immediately go into flying if we're on our flying mount. So let's go to where we're applying gravity in our locomotion method. So that's going to be right here. And I'm just going to open up some curly brackets here. I'm going to grab this and drop it in here. And I'm going to set up a switch statement. So switch. You can also set up an if statement kind of, but I feel like this is just a really easy way for me to sort of organize my thoughts. So mounted state. Then we'll go case mounted state dot unmounted. And then I'm just going to copy that, change that to mounted. Then we're going to break that. And I'm going to copy this right into there. And then just going to copy this as well. We're going to change this to mounted flying. And this is going to be happening if we're on the ground. So we need to grab some sort of physics raycast that we have. And I think the closest is in ground direction. So I'm just going to grab that. We'll throw this right here. And we'll change this to like 0.15. Yeah. Let's also put that inside curly brackets, because we're going to be doing something else. one of the things that I want to do is I want to take this and put this in an if statement in front of both of these. We can remove this from here. And then here, I'm just going to go else move state is equal to move state dot flying. So this is our first transition. So let's try that out. And let's change our mounted state to mounted flying. So we're going to be moving really fast along the ground. And when we jump off this ledge here, we should immediately transition into flying. Then when we land on the ground, we're back to mounted. All right, so now we want to set up a situation where we can jump into flying. So let's go to jumping, and I'm going to add a new float right underneath jumping. And this is going to be called jump, start, pause, Y. So I'm going to come down to our jump method, and right at the start where it says if not jumping, I'm just going to copy jumping equals true, add some curly brackets and drop it in there. And then before jumping is equal to true, I'm going to go jump, start, pause, Y is equal to transform.position.Y. So that way we're just setting it once at the beginning of the jump, and then we're jumping. From here, we want to go back into our locomotion method, and we want to go underneath controller.move and add a new if statement, mounted state is equal to mounted state.flying, .mounted flying. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new float. This is going to be current jump height, and we're going to set that equal to transform.position.y minus jump start pause y. Then we're going to ask if current jump height is less than 0.5 f, or greater than, sorry. Then we're going to switch our move state to move state dot flying. Let me just fix this really quickly. I forgot to do two equals signs. And then from here, I'm actually going to copy this into swimming inside jump, where if we're jumping, basically. The other thing I want to do is I want to grab this here, and right at the bottom of flying, I'll paste that in there. I'm just going to remove this actually, this clamp. Don't need it. And then I'm going to do if D from water surface is greater than or equal to swim level, and if we're in water. So if we're in water and D from water surface is greater than or equal to swim level, I want to switch our move state to move state.swimming. All right, so that's basically it for flying. Let's actually test out our flying and see if it's working. Let's get on our flying mount. Let's ride around a little bit. We're riding really fast. I'm just gonna go right off this ledge here, fly down to the ground. Then I'm gonna start swimming. Going to jump out of the water and right into flying. Fly right back up here, land on the ground, and then jump back into flying. So that's flying. I hope you had a lot of fun figuring this out with me. I certainly had a lot of fun making this series, and it's really interesting to see that it took me 10 months to complete this project. Sometimes due to laziness, sometimes just because things got in the way, but I'm really happy that I was able to finish this. Well, finish this, because technically I'm not finished. I will be coming back to this, I promise. The next step is me trying to figure out how to get multiplayer working for this. So I need a little bit of time to go away and figure some of that out. I know there's more stuff that we need to do with the character controller, but that's simple things like, well, I say simple, but it's things like, you know, standing on a platform, or like a boat or something like that, or a zeppelin if you're Horde, I guess. Things like heroic leap or charge or something like that. If you're wondering what I'm going to be doing next, I actually have a couple of ideas as well. There's another clone project that I want to work on. It's going to be a camera system from a very popular game series. It's just something that I've been in the back of my mind that I've kind of wanted to try and figure out. I also kind of want to get like just some simple UI stuff out there, just to see if I can figure it out, because it's more stuff that's in the back of my mind, just, I don't know, just sitting there waiting to be done. And I'm going to be working on a project where I'm sort of going through the basics of moving your character controller. I know that's kind of what we did here, but I'd like to at least lay some of the groundwork, because here I just sort of put it there. But I have had some questions about, is this something that I can do for a first-person rig, or is this something that I can do for something else? And I just wanted to just kind of like explain the different control methods, including using an actual controller. One of the other things is that I wanted to respond to a couple of comments that I got. So I'm just going to go through each video one by one and try and answer as many questions as I can. So let's see if we can find a good, where are the comments? Here we go. All right, so this first question is from Davidson N, and he asks, he says, I've been wondering for ages, why not just use Unity's input manager instead of writing your own? The answer to this is because I have no idea how to use the input manager to set inputs in like a game menu. So for instance, in most games, you can go into your options menu and you can change your controls. And what that does is it lets you customize your controls to your own liking. World of Warcraft's controls are extremely customizable, and so I needed something that was flexible enough to fit that. So I hope that answers your question. All right, so this is an interesting one. This is actually quite a few months old. I guess this is a comment I missed. It's not really a question. So he says, hey man, I was playing around with what's been done so far and noticed that you can bunny hop. So what he means is you can jump, and then, if you're still holding the space bar, when you hit the ground, your character jumps again, which is true. I was sort of able to fix it, but the input isn't always picked up by the engine. Maybe take a look and see if you feel like fixing it and showing it us. Yeah, I probably will at some point, but like I said, I'm really right now going to be focusing on figuring out some multiplayer stuff, because I want to basically make that decision soon, because a lot of this stuff that I want to move forward in with the character controller is like multiplayer related stuff, things like targeting and like enemies and that kind of stuff. So I will probably do that later on. So I don't know how to pronounce this. It could be Deet Heaven or D the VN. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. So he says, or she says, that's the same I noticed. Holding down the spacebar will result in continuously jumping after reaching the ground. Changing the jump check to jump equals controls.jump.get control binding down gets rid of the bunny hopping, but not every hit on the spacebar is recognized after landing on the ground. That's interesting. I'll have to check on that, because what I can think of is creating like a timer or something, so that when you hit the ground, there's a certain amount of time before you can jump again. I'll have to check. I know you can jump almost right away after you land in World of Warcraft, but I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of experimenting. But it's cool to see that people are trying to figure it out as well on their own. So from there, let me just kind of lay a couple things out. So I don't know exactly when this video is going up, so I can't give you a good outline on, when you'll be able to see my stream next, because I know my stream, I've been streaming on Tuesdays at 5, and a couple people have been showing up. I'm thinking the time is the issue, maybe. Maybe it would be better if I streamed on the weekend, because more people would have free time. So what I'm thinking about doing is maybe Sundays, twice a day. So Sunday, maybe early in the morning whenever I wake up. Can't give you a time because, sometimes I like to sleep in. And probably after that, 5 o'clock. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys there. I'm probably going to continue streaming on Tuesdays, but I don't know, maybe just having more stream days would kind of give more people the ability to come hang out. What I was working on last time was sculpting, and I'm probably going to be doing more of that. I really want to be able to sculpt characters in different styles. So on the last stream, I did a couple characters from Jack and Daxter. I did Kira, and I started on Daxter. I'm not finished Daxter yet. His legs are not there. In fact, most of his body proportions feel very off, but I mean, you know what? That's sculpting. You just got to use your reference and try and get the shapes right and get them as close as possible, and that's really what it is. It really just comes down to how much time you actually want to spend on getting things right. I also did an unfinished Dirk the Daring from Dragon's Lair, and I was thinking about doing a full body of him, and maybe also including Princess Daphne in there, because I never really played the Don Bluth arcade game, but what I did do was I played the Return to Dragon's Lair 3D, and that was a lot of fun. That was quite a bit of fun. And yeah, if you want to catch me on my streams, go to twitch.tv/supertrooper, and if you want to join my Discord, the link is in the description. I'd love to see you guys there. It's not totally active. There's a lot of people who just don't show up, but I mean, I guess that's every Discord. But there are a couple people who chat every once in a while, and they're generally a good bunch of people. I'd love to see, you know, what you guys are working on, so please, you know, if you're working on something cool, we have an entire category of like art or stuff like that, and it's a place for people of all skills. So if you feel like your art sucks, and maybe it does, that's not a bad thing. Everyone starts from zero. So don't be afraid to come in, and if your art's not good or if your games aren't good, don't be afraid to post it, because to be honest, like, I'm probably going to be giving warnings if people are being rude. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this series, and I can't wait to start working on this project again. I can't wait to show you guys the other projects that I'm going to be working on, and please, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to leave a comment and a like, and all the regular stuff that you do on YouTube videos or don't do, because, I mean, let's be real. All right, anyways, thanks for watching the video. See you guys next time.
Super trooper, super trooper, super trooper, and he sells soup.